Hello, and welcome to the next Lukozer retro game review video. So this is Space Harrier, which was written in 1986 by Chris Butler and published by Elite in 1987, very early 87. It was actually a bit delayed. They wanted it out in time for Christmas 86 but missed it, so it was released in January 87. Now, even though I'm a fan of the arcade original of Space Harrier, I freely admit that it's all about two things: the graphics and the hydraulic cabinet. Take those two things away and you really don't have a hell of a lot left. You basically have an extremely generic shoot 'em up where you pretty much shoot anything that appears on screen, and that's it. But as I say, back in the day in 85 when I used to play Space Harrier a hell of a lot down the arcades, I was a fan because the graphics and the hydraulic cabinet combined to make it a pretty good gaming experience. But even if you just take away one of those things, such as when I did my review of the coin-op a little while ago, last year sometime, while I was playing that, I was quickly getting bored with it. Okay, I had all the graphics there, but didn't have the hydraulic cabinet, and it was just missing something. And even though I didn't say during the video, when I got to about level 5 or 6, I was thinking, fuck it, yeah, I will keep putting in enough credits to complete it and show the whole thing. But I was getting so bored with it that when I reached, I think it was about level 9 or 10, I think I got somewhere around there. I was getting just so bored, I thought, fuck it, no, I'm not going to carry it on. So I didn't. Now, with all that in mind, here we are with the Commodore 64 version, which obviously does not have the hydraulics, and this will shock nobody, but it doesn't have the graphics either. I always get the impression when I hear that something is by Chris Butler that he was one of those programmers who couldn't say no to a job. And by this time, and this is still one of his earlier Commodore 64 games, but he'd already got quite a good reputation for, first of all, for Zed. He had done a couple of earlier games for Alligator. Zed was the game that really sort of like propelled him. Then along came Commando, and then along came Ghosts and Goblins. Now those two arcade conversions were pretty good, but I mean, one of the reasons why they were pretty good is that the actual arcade games themselves were pretty simple to begin with. That certainly does not apply with Space Harrier. I remember a Zap 64 interview, it was Gary Penn who was interviewing him, and that was when he announced that his next game was going to be Space Harrier, to which Gary Penn just said, "You're joking," and pointed out that by the time he had coded all of the graphics, there would have been nothing left to do anything else, and he was quite right. It's a stupid idea trying to convert this to any home computer. I mean, if you are not already aware of the Amiga version, which I reviewed way back, that's shit. So if the Amiga version, if the Amiga isn't capable of doing a decent version of Space Harrier, it's a fairly safe assumption that the Commodore 64 is not going to be capable of it either. Of course, this wasn't the last overly ambitious conversion that Chris Butler was involved with, because he also did Thunderblade, and he also did one of the racing ones. I can't remember I can't remember the fucking title of it. It's a fucking load of shit. I mean, the coin-op version is a load of shit, let alone all of the actual conversions. The same applies with Thunderblade for that matter. Anyway, yeah, with the Commodore 64 version, it does have a slight difference to the arcade version. In fact, it has a couple of slight differences. Firstly, you get far more lives because you need them. And secondly, it uses an Astron belt type method, whereas or insofar as when you start, you get a 60-second countdown, during which time you have infinite lives. But once that timer runs out, then it's down to how many lives you got left. Why they felt it necessary to put that in, I haven't got the faintest fucking clue. Anyway, let's get this game started then. So here we are then, stage 1, Moot. And yeah, here we are. So there's no checkerboard effect on the ground. I don't entirely know why. I guess just to keep the game running at some sort of half decent speed, because I mean, it's not going to have the speed of the arcade original. It does run at, you know, you can see some speed there, but yeah, the lack of the checkerboard effect on the ground means that it's difficult to actually judge how fast you are going. Yeah, I knew I was going to run into that. Losing a life is a little bit different to the arc of the arcade original, but yeah, I think that even the most ambitious of people weren't going to expect it to do that. Now, with the exception of your main sprite there, everything else is actually done with software sprites. Your actual main sprite is the only hardware sprite in the entire game. Now we get onto the boss. So this can take a while. Especially as, in order to avoid the shots, I just have to spend a hell of a lot of time just going around in circles. Well, that's him done. On to level 2, Geezer. Alright, so as you can see, my timer has now run out, and now I have my lives on display, and I have a fucking lot of them. But like I say, you need a lot of them. Oh, fuck's sake. Like the arcade version, these large stone pillars here are indestructible. But as you also saw with the like Rapa Nui heads there, the actual attack waves are somewhat different to the arcade original. I mean, alright, the graphics are the same. Everyone knows level 2 is where the Rapa Nui heads first appear, but after that, well, oh fuck's sake. So I think we're approaching the end of the level, or not. Yeah, here we are. If you know where the fuck this music comes from, I'd be interested, because it sure as fuck doesn't come from Space Harrier. Don't sound fuck all like the music for level 2 in Space Harrier. Oh, come on, there we go, right. So, stage 3 Amar, except once the level starts, you will see that this is actually stage 4 of the coin-op. Although stage 4 on the coin-op version, of course, has the has the ceiling, it has the checkerboard effect on above and below, or rather below and above. On the Commodore 64 version, as well as being in the wrong place, it is just avoiding everything because there's no attack waves at all until you get to the boss at the end. Still, it fucking gives me a chance to rest my arm from firing. I think I'm still recovering from the various goes of retrograde that I've been playing. Alright, so on to the two-headed dragon, which you can tell because it looks just like the one-headed dragon, except they've stuck a head on the arse end of it. And it's also using the same music as level 1, which bears only the vaguest similarity to the arcade original. Right, so that's one head gone. Fucking come on, right, two more I think. There we go, right, so on the Sicil, except yeah, this is what Agar would look like in the arcades. Those large plant things should be indestructible, but I am actually able to destroy them on this level. This is usually about as far as I can get on the Commodore 64 version. I don't think I've ever made it to the boss of level 4. Mind you, for large parts of this I've just been able to stay in the middle, firing away and not actually doing anything else. So yeah, not exactly a great copy of the, or a great conversion of the arcade. So I finally need to move, but now I go back to just staying in the middle and shooting. Well, that's fucking stupid, that. Right, so here we are then, boss of level 4. It does have some similarity to the arcade version, but it's now stopped. It looks like I've got to shoot him several times like the dragon. And again, it's using the level 1 music. So I can't actually tell what I'm supposed to be shooting at, because every time he gets up close and I fire, it doesn't do anything. For fuck's sake, come on. Right, there we go, right. Right, so that's that cut down. Also Ida. I'm sure Ida is not level 5. Nope. At least it looks like level 5, so yeah, it's they've got them in the right order again. Is anything actually going to come along that I can shoot? I haven't seen anything yet. I've just been avoiding everything. Ah, at last. And then it kills me straight away. I think that's game over. Yes, it is. What a fucking shame. Alright, let's... Well, there you go, right, so I suppose I'll start another game up and we'll get the review underway then. Right, graphics. I think the graphics are fucking horrible, but they are probably about as good a job as could be done. They do appear on screen quite quickly, but because they are software sprites, they look terrible. Yeah, I'm not impressed. Audio. The renditions of the tunes are atrocious. The sound effects are very sparse. What sound effects are there bear absolutely no resemblance to the audio of the coin-op. So yeah, I'm not impressed with the sound. And the gameplay, well, it does play like Space Harrier. I can't really deny that, but by doing so, it does show just how much Space Harrier was all about, you know, the graphics show and the hydraulic cabinet. In this, we don't have the hydraulics, we don't have the decent graphics, so what we have is an unbelievably bland shooter. I guess something else that helps the arcade version is the excellent music, and of course we haven't got that. As for the bosses, I mean, okay, yes, in the arcade version it is a dragon that, you know, keeps moving backwards and forwards and you have to shoot it in the head several times. But it looks like it's been done by somebody who's never seen the arcade version, and they've just been given that description that I just said and guessed from that, because it bears so little fucking resemblance to the actual coin-op conversion, or the actual coin-op version. It's not true. And the trouble is, the bosses all get progressively worse. So I'm not particularly eager to get much further in this, but yeah, some of the collision detection is a bit suspect as well. A lot of the time you will hit a stone whatever once it's past you. And then shots come along from nowhere that move so fast you've got little to no chance of avoiding them, because by the time you see them, well, the only reason you see them is because it's just hit you. But I mean, as plus sides go, I mean, yes, the levels are recognisable, apart from the small detail of level 3 and 4 being in the wrong order. This is just fucking... Again, it looks like someone's just had a written description of what the boss of level 2 looks like, but they certainly weren't told what the music fucking sounds like. But I mean, with... I mean, if this, you know, is the arcade version, and so there we are in Sicile, as it should be, level 4, there are things to shoot in this level, you know, it's not just fly through it and avoid everything. I mean, okay, there's not a lot to shoot in the level, but there is stuff there. But not here, it's just avoid everything for the entire duration of the level. So it's, yeah, not particularly interesting. The only good thing about it is it gives you a fire button to rest, especially if you're playing the game on an emulator like me and using the keyboard. So I'm not a fan, which is hardly surprising. the idea of converting Space Harrier to the home, home computers and home consoles and that should have been laughed off the table the moment it was suggested. But it wasn't. Here we are. And of course, if you were a fan of the arcade coin-op, then you're the only person who would have bought this. People who were not fans of the coin-op game were hardly going to be rushing out to buy a conversion of it. So you're a fan of the coin-op and you go and buy your copy of Space Harrier and you get this. Well, it's fuck all like the game, so you're going to hate it, which makes the whole conversion process a fucking waste of time. But did they learn from this? Did they? Bollocks. Instead, it just got worse. You got fucking conversions of Afterburner and conversions of fucking Galaxy Force and every single one of them. Again, the whole idea of a conversion of those games should have just been laughed off the table. And if they weren't, then what they should have done was, shown them the finished product just prior to release. And, whoever was the head of the publishers said, is this really the best you could do? Which is the no-win question. Because if they say yes, then it shows just how much of a fucking waste of time it was. If they say no, then the publisher turns around and says, right, well in that case you can fucking get rid of this sack of shit and start again. So Chris Butler had a reputation, and it was a reputation that he maintained throughout his Commodore 64 career for being one of the better programmers, and it's a reputation that he's deserved. He definitely is one of the best Commodore 64 games programmers there is. So if this is the best that he could have done with this, then that really should have been, all of the alarm bells, going off and telling them, right, we clearly do not want to go ahead with this stupid idea. Fuck's sake, do I really want to fucking keep blasting away and try to actually do the boss of this level? No, I don't. Well, there we go. So what do I score it? I score it 2 out of 10 because it does play vaguely like Space Harrier, but that's all it does. Graphically it's a fucking load of shite, audio it's a load of shite, and the whole thing was a complete waste of time. So that is Space Harrier then, 2 out of 10, fucking awful. That brings this review to an end, and we will see you at the next one.